All right, quick break before we get started here today. I want to tell you about something that keeps coming up with the brands that I talk to. Now, here's the reality. If you're running paid ads right now, your ad platforms are probably only seeing about 40% of your actual conversions. Think about the iOS restrictions, the ad blockers, all these privacy changes that have happened over the last few years. They've all created this massive blind spot in your data. And so you're making these ad decisions based on incomplete information. And I've watched brands kill campaigns, honestly, that were actually working. They've just looked like losers in the dashboard. But I've also seen people pour money into campaigns that look great, but the reality is these are just taking credit for sales that they didn't drive. And so if you're spending $500 a month or even $50,000 a month, to me, that's really expensive guessing. And that's what my sponsor on today's episode actually solves. Their company is called WeTracked, and they're at wetracked.io. It completely fixes this problem. They are the number one highest rated ad tracking solution on Shopify. They have over 7,000 brands that are using this solution to get accurate conversion data back to Meta and back to Google. And technically, it just bypasses all of the tracking restrictions so that these algorithms can start actually learning your store and what's actually working. And the setup takes 5 minutes. There's no coding required. And believe it or not, they actually have real human support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's not a ticketing system. And literally, you can test out their solution right now for 14 days. And you can see the difference, honestly, in your data right away. So you can go to wetracked.io/e-commerce fastlane, or you can just go to the show notes. There's a special link in this episode, and you get a special 10% off for you, our amazing listeners. So, all right, let's jump back into today's conversation.
You're listening to E-commerce Fastlane, the podcast show to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company, powered by Shopify. Listen to real conversations with partners and subject matter experts as they share proven practical strategies, platforms, and the best Shopify apps to help you accelerate your business. The time is now for you to improve efficiencies, grow revenue, profit, and lifetime customer loyalty. Please welcome your host, startup founder, and strategic advisor, Steve Hutt.
Well, hey everyone, welcome back to E-commerce Fastlane. I'm your host, Steve Hutt. Now today, I'm chatting with Ivan, who is I'm going to call him director of product, but that's just because he's only a single person in the product team for Searchable.com. Nice thing about Ivan, he's joined the company kind of early on in the organization. He's like one of their first kind of major hires when it comes to the product itself. What's interesting about Searchable.com, and I'm actually a customer and I'm using it, I have it live on my screen here now. We're going to talk a lot about what Searchable does. It's very unique kind of in the AI realm. I don't want to give away too much about what the product does and what it solves, but it's very, very interesting as it relates to AI and chatbots and overviews and things like that. It's on a lot of people's radar. People are used to the concept around, well, where am I in organic search or share of search just on the regular kind of blue links. But people are trying to figure out now with Shopify's alignment with ChatGPT now, and you can actually can buy from within app, and then all the alignment now over with Etsy and with Amazon and all that. It's so interesting where there's a lot going on about people doing a lot of research in chatbots now, being it ChatGPT or Perplexity, Gemini. So it's very interesting. So that's why Ivan's on the show today. So welcome to E-commerce Fastlane.
Hi, great to be here.
My pleasure. So let's talk a bit about the platform itself, because I think what's interesting about Searchable, number one, I'm a customer. I think that the platform is just absolutely fantastic. And I don't want to rave too much about it yet, because I do want to get into some of the specifics of the tool. But let's talk a bit about the backstory of the company. But the founding team, including yourself, you have a lot of roots in what it means from content production and SEO and now AEO.
Chris, our co-founder, is a serial UK entrepreneur, so from that side of things. I knew him first, foremost from his LinkedIn content and his social content about business as a person who founded 4 or 5 businesses himself. So he really knows what he's talking about. But he used to have a luxury agency. So he definitely done it himself. He's done the miles, I would say, but also our entire team is pretty much is in one shape or form have done the work on SEO in my case. So I used to be a marketing consultant, heavily measuring on SEO, e-commerce, and so on and so forth. We have our other co-founders, Ari and Sam. They came from an AEO background, so they've been looking at it just as ChatGPT started to emerge. They immediately started looking, like, okay, what can we do here? How can brands rank? The entire team is pretty much all experienced from get-go, so we all know what we're doing. And then we make sure that that's given in the hands of the users.
I see. This product is clearly built for me as a media company, but I think there's a lot of people listening that are obviously Shopify powered businesses, and they're producing content, trying to just create their own competitive moat, trying to educate their customer, get them into the marketing funnel of some sort, building that trust and authority that goes along with content production. So can you talk about like who you believe the product is actually built for? Is there a sweet spot of the type of customer? Is there a workflow? Is it just more of a trend now where we have to be in AI search? Like, because right now I think organic placement is still the most important or the highest ROI currently, just getting into free listings in Google. But we know that people are now moving over to chatbots and or they're seeing AI overview. So overall, let's talk about the types of brands that actually fit nicely with searchable.com.
In danger of sounding cliche, everyone can use it because we have a very wide range of customers. So we see it as, yourself as more of a media person, all the way to very large enterprise brands that are in 40 countries. They have like 60 product categories and so on. So their footprint is very, very large. But there is definitely a sweet spot in the middle as well. So what Searchable really majors on is boosting your existing team members into effectively being additionally like 10x e-commerce manager or 10x content creator. And I'm sure we'll dive into it, but actually we not only tell you where you rank, how you rank, where the problems are, but we give you the skill set and an AI sidekick we call AI agent for ease to effectively help you fix the issues as well. So if you are a very large company with millions of problems that you need to solve, that is useful. If you're a very small e-commerce team, 2-3 people, you can also use it because we aim to help boost everybody. And the AI space is so new. Everyone is figuring it out. So that's why I would say it is useful for everybody because it affects each industry in some way or form. Some more than others. In e-commerce, people starting to shop in ChatGPT, or at least they're starting to ask.
Yes, research, definitely.
Exactly. I've quizzed it so much on headphones recently, so I got new headphones. From Amazon's perspective, I was the best customer. I typed in one search and I bought those headphones. That's an ideal customer. What they don't see is it took me like a couple of hours of quizzing ChatGPT rather than Google, and so on and so forth. So this is where the things are really changing.
So it's interesting though. So like, what do you think brands are currently doing without your tool? Like, cause I think it's interesting. And I don't want to say there's some duct tape going on, but I think progressive brands are trying to do some things. Some are doing nothing and it's just kind of hoping, or they're just not sure what to do. So like, what do you see from your side?
What we see is in a lot of cases, we get a very typical response as well. I can go do it myself. I can go to ChatGPT, can go ask, I want the best headphones, best over-ear headphones, best running sneakers. Some brands are getting some results. Some brands are seeing Nike, Adidas, and a lot of the time they either try to skew the AI in their way. It's like, okay, I want only British brands or I want only Japanese headphones. And then they're trying to kind of get that. Or they just give up and they're like, well, I can't really fight with Nike. I can't really fight with Adidas because it's true on SEO. It's such an established industry that a lot of the time, if you have massive competitors, it can be really hard to rank that way. But because the industry is so new, there's so much white space. I would say for the next 6 to 12 months, there's so much opportunity to rank with Nikes, with Sonys of this world, if you really optimize it. But how they do it, if they do it manually, they'll do maybe 10 prompts. They'll do 20 prompts on ChatGPT and so on. We run hundreds of prompts for our customers each day on up to 9 different platforms. So, imagine running that manually 900 prompts a day. That will be a full-time job. This is when they say, AI makes us less productive. If you're using it that way, you're definitely less productive. But what we're helping is effectively automating it. And on top of that, as you mentioned, is okay, well, now what? I've seen these results. And this is a lot of the time the aha moment for a lot of demos that I run or our team runs is once we see, okay, we got all those responses, we compiled it into very insightful information for you in different ways. And AI is very different to basic search SEO, I guess. And then the next thing is, well, this is what you do about it. And it's on one platform. That is, again, where it really, really helps. But yeah, majority of people come having tried things manually, search themselves, and they build a few scripts. And then they quickly realize, well, I can't really keep going like this because it's not scalable. In some cases, they come from established SEO platforms. Everybody has an AI visibility tool, but it's one of those things. There is a company that has a very defined market, which is SEO, for example, and then they're tacking that on, maybe charging a little bit extra on top of it. That is very, very different from a platform that's been built from the ground up.
It's interesting though. So I have it open right now, and what I find great about it is that when you add a URL, so I put e-commerce Fastlane in, and then I ran a site audit. I just did like maybe the first 100 pages or so of my site. I think I'm allowed up to 1,000 or something. But in any case, maybe the top 100 kind of pages. I grabbed the site map. It did a crawl. It came back with a lot of opportunities and things where I think under site health first, it went through and gave me some issues right away and said, okay, in my particular case, I found 1,727 issues. Even though I have massive traffic, more than 300,000 a month coming to the site, I have pretty decent AI visibility, just more because of age domain and domain authority and lots of content and a consistent publishing schedule. But it's interesting, there's still lots of high priority and almost critical things that I didn't realize needed to be fixed. And they're in queue now in the tasks folder now. I checked them off and now my VA is taking care of them. So walk us through what happens when someone gets the tool, they have it do a quick audit of all the pages, or at least the high value pages in the business, and it comes up with things like, is this the typical workflow where let's figure out some of the on-page challenges that are happening right now, and then does it move to another step about, well, where do you fit in AI search right now and through these different chatbots? Is that usually the next step? And then what would be the third step after that once you identify where you fit in the market?
Steve, you're quickly becoming a super user, I see. You've covered a feature that's been out for just over 2 weeks. So we've just announced it. So we're very excited about it. It's getting very good uptake. And I think for the reasons that you mentioned. So yeah, we do run a site audit. And if anybody who's listening kind of done a lighthouse audit or a technical audit from an SEO tool, some of the elements will be very familiar, but at the same time, and this is where the entire debate between is AEO just really good SEO kind of starts to diverge a bit, because one of probably my favorite examples is FAQs. So if you were doing SEO pretty much up until maybe a year ago, FAQs probably will be very, very low on your list of to-dos. They have very little impact on SEO itself. It's just a bit of content. They're really good from usability perspective, UX, conversion rate optimization. But from SEO, it's meh kind of thing. Suddenly, you cue LLM into it, and AI's view is, well, I have everything given to me here on a silver platter. I have my question. I have my answer. Of course, I want to look at that. And then it looks at another page, and it's well, that doesn't have it. So I'm less sure about this page versus this other page that gives me what I need. So suddenly there's an entire category of new issues that even the best optimized websites are suddenly seeing because they were optimizing for SEO. But now you have this entire new category of things to look into. You really, really start to see the differences. And this is probably where you're seeing the issues is it's not that you ignore them before, it's just the fact that it's a new category or at least a new importance of an issue that we're seeing.
Yeah. Under critical for me, there was a few different kind of more kind of a content things, maybe H tags and different things, a lot of on-page things that need to be kind of resolved. What's interesting about the FAQs, I guess my follow-up question is and I know your tool allows or helps write what it believes to be intelligent FAQs that could be missing in a piece of content. These either you somehow have reverse engineered the query to find out, well, you're not mentioning this and don't have the appropriate answer. Let's add that to the piece of content. So that part I get. What I'm trying to figure out, and maybe this is the $1 billion question, is that how do these LLMs now try to figure out that if one page is showing FAQs, the question and the answer, and that's very helpful from them from the learning perspective, how does it decide to use an FAQ or to not, and then to move on? Because I guess it almost seems like there's other kind of like trust signals going on in websites and other referral things going on. Because it's great, we could easily tout and say, okay, everybody, go out and write a bunch of FAQs, have 10 for every page you have, and just hedge a few bets that maybe LLMs will pick that up and help them with their learnings. But we believe there's probably a few other pieces of the puzzle that would allow you to be even in a pool of potential options to these LLMs. Does that kind of question make sense?
I would say it qualifies as a $1 billion question. Um, so what we've noticed is, obviously we're talking about AI visibility, but it's worth noting that there's also enormous amount of new content that is popping up because it is AI generated, make it easy. And yes, AI slop is the usual term. But I think even before that, even if your content is perfectly good, the key thing is if everybody creates that content that is roughly the same, talks about the same things. And I'm not talking just about FAQs, just the entire page in general. If AI finds nothing new in that answer, it will pull you with the rest of everybody else who is not necessarily terribly written, probably human maybe written, but doesn't have anything new that the AI can pick up. It probably already has that information. So the way that we suggest is, first of all, you need to make sure you bring something unique to it, or at least a full answer. So a page with just FAQs is probably as bad as a page with no FAQs, because what's the point of the page, right? At the same time, and that's what a lot of people are missing, again, because the schema markup wasn't really a thing, that big of a thing in SEO world, because Google kind of solved it for themselves. Almost everyone got lazy because Google was dealing with it for them. First of all, LLM needs to see what that page is about in the first place in an easy way, because even before it starts scanning the page, it needs to have a snapshot. So for example, if you're writing a blog, FAQs will probably be at the bottom, but if you don't have a TLDR, which our article also adds, the AI won't even get there. So it's those things. So effectively, you make it as easy for AI to get a lightning fast answer what that page is about, and then you can start building out the content on it.
Okay, so that part I understand. Then audit is done. And then I do see a section now about visibility now. And I see kind of like where a brand sits from a visibility perspective. It found a bunch of competitors. It let me accept or decline those competitors or add on new ones if Searchable didn't figure out who it believes is my notable competitors in my space. It kind of scans my own site. It feels that these are other notable competitors in AI search. And most I agreed with. And now here I'm at 23% visibility. Shopify would be the highest, and there's lots of other like lower competitors. And so what do you believe the kind of the next steps are once you understand where you sit currently after an audit? I know what I do currently, but I'm curious to see what you say about what's the next steps now once you know where you sit in this kind of AI search.
The visibility dashboard, effectively, it's a high-level snapshot, right? So this is where you are, this is where your competitors are. Any of the additional features that we provide, analytics features, effectively allow you to dig deeper on this. So I've mentioned sources before, so effectively figuring out which links or which websites AI cites and uses for information. There's an entire section dedicated to that. And because we aggregate those thousands and thousands of responses, we get a very good corpus of information of who is getting very consistent versus a long tail that is kind of accidental, almost probability-based mentions. And I'm sure I won't surprise anybody to mention that like Reddit is very high, YouTube is getting higher. It's interesting because if you do the aggregate on page, like on website level, these guys always win. But we allow you to drill down at the URL level, for example, and suddenly the picture changes because yes, Reddit has hundreds of posts that get a little bit cited every time, but there will always be 1 to 5 pages that are stellar pages, probably been early on, somebody's maintaining them. They have impeccable technical performance. And these are the ones that you can almost like use as your North Star, like how to do a proper page or how to write a piece of content and so on and so forth. So we provide like various angles to AI through, for example, what AI is talking on the platform versus where it leads off the platform. And for somebody who's used to looking at data, looking at SEO data, that is a perfect place to start dig. But we also go further. So if you want somebody to do the number crunching for you, this is where you go into an agent and you can ask. So our agent is trained on a platform. It has access to all of the data, all of the knowledge, all of the best practices. So you can just ask which of my competitors are getting cited for good Shopify content and so on. It will give you an answer, and then you have a conversation. Okay, what do I do to make it better? What do I do to win? Which content do I write? And effectively, you have this partner that you can bounce back and forth with, which I think is one of the best parts of the platform. And it surprises me sometimes when you do a demo and you feel a bit risky, or it's a category I haven't been demoing before, and then you just throw it in a question and it comes back with like a fully detailed thought through answer, and it feels a bit like magic, even though we know that's technology.
Yeah, it's amazing actually. And I do use the agent quite a bit. One of them was like content gap analysis, because obviously it's set up right now currently to saying, well, here's my site. So this could be a Shopify brand. It finds other notable competitors, playing in the same, let's say you're in footwear, all these other footwear brands that are reasonable competitors that people may consider during their discovery phase. It goes out and comes back by analyzing all the gaps between your site and the competitors. And then all of a sudden then starts giving you some recommendations about content gaps that are missing. Talk about what's going on here. It's pretty amazing, actually.
This is where scale really, really matters, because 100 articles, yes, each article can swing things one way, but when we're getting so many data points and so much rich answers from AI, after all, yes, a blue link has a little bit of a snippet to it. It has a title, and that's pretty much what you have to work with. We work with enormous contextually relevant information responses. So what we do is we parse all of them and we get general gist of what this is about, the context of why it was recommended, the sentiment even. So if AI says, well, this is a bit iffy, we'll be able to record that and effectively say where you're falling behind. And that's what it does. So effectively, it parses through all of this information and effectively relevant to your search. So if you're saying content gap, we have an e-commerce client who does sell socks. That's primarily what they sell. And they actually found some ideas for products because they found that their competitors are adding certain occasions like Easter and Mother's Day and so on and so forth that they weren't doing. So it went not even as far as content, it went into their product strategy, because they realized that AI is recommending socks for these occasions that they haven't considered, which is fantastic. And the only way you do that is if you have a very wide net and some ability to find that nugget. AI helping AI almost for our agent.
And it's really cool because I'm looking at one of my examples and stuff like that about content gaps. And it says, here's what your competitors are covering and you're missing. And it's being so this is exactly what you're talking about, the whole discovery part of it, like saying, hey, here's where I'm at. There's clearly got to be some gaps in my content strategy of some sort. There are for everybody in every industry. So this at least gives you like a concrete example of like what should your kind of next steps be, and then you can go ahead and create a task for it, and that task is all part of the writing process. So let's talk about that. Once you find a gap, the platform is so smart, because I've run it multiple times now. It's so smart to know that, well, here's my competitors, here's my gaps, go out and write a piece of content. Now it actually knows the piece of content that's been assisted through Searchable. The fact that I've published it, I've given it the URL that's now live on my site. And so now all of a sudden it's using it as a reference point now to saying that, well, it used to have this gap. You decided to write some content based on our recommendation. You did it. We know the URL that belongs to it now, and now we're tracking that also. It's so, like, why wasn't this always available? But it must be just something at scale now, just kind of how the platform actually works, because I sound like a fanboy, like a big fanboy, but it's so interesting where this problem is really hard to solve. It even goes down the rabbit hole. I think we talked offline before recording about the whole stale, dated, and decaying content problem. Let's talk a little about that. So we know what we need to write, and we know we can write it based on a gap analysis. And the content you do produce is fantastic with, structured data is correct, schema is correct, FAQs and introduction, everything, it makes a lot of sense. And I've written a lot of content. But what about content that people find are not doing well in organic search, and they're clearly not doing very well in AI search? Talk about what happens with Searchable and how you're able to help those particular kind of, not say pillar pieces, but pieces that used to rank well, but over time, that whole decaying line that usually happens to oblivion, right?
First of all, you can optimize existing content. And that wasn't available at first, but then that was one of the most demanding things. And customer feedback is a lifeline and lifeblood for us. I am on all of our support channels. I'm talking to customers all the time to effectively get those insights. And what we found is a lot of people actually came from one of the first reviews was, well, I have this amazing searchable article, and now my other older articles look a bit rubbish compared to it. And, almost like a little bit of jealousy going on there. You effectively can just upload an existing article. We'll read through it, we'll run it through research again, and we will optimize it back to the same standard. So that's one of the easiest way to do it. But again, back to the agent. If you see it as an issue, if you see that there is content gaps, you can pretty much just give the URL to an agent, ask it, well, what do I do here? Why is it stale? Why is it losing the traffic? And again, because it's a chat interface, even if agent doesn't have all of the access that you have, all of the context, if you provide it, you will use it to effectively build it. But that's why we have Google Search Console and analytics integrations, because you will now be able to track that article. And once you ask the agents, like, well, how's that new article doing? It will go back to Google Analytics. It will pull that URL and they're like, well, now you're getting some ChatGPT traffic for it. I can see that. And it's all out of the box. We try to keep the kind of technical barriers as low as possible. Again, we have a few users who don't believe that we're just integrating with GA because they log in and they see all of this AI attribution data. And then they're like, well, where is this coming from? It's like, no, this is just the fact that we present the data, again, in a native form because we know what we're doing and we know what we're looking for in your data. We'll be able to present that very well.
Yeah. It's very rare that, that a solution actually does have both GA and Search Console data together and can start corroborating a story and kind of, putting the two pieces together. I think that's like incredibly important. Now let's talk about the prompts that are able to go in there, because I think it's interesting where some people don't know what to prompt. And I think it comes down to, it's almost like in the old SEO days where like there's these head terms, which are important for a business, but then there's this long tail. And then I know that people in general are starting to change how they're querying, just even Google directly, but even in large language models, even on your phone now, like I use Flow right now, the Flow app. But a lot of times, like I'm speaking into my phone because I can find that I can probably, speak 200 words a minute versus typing. I guess the mindset of the technology of like, how do you choose which prompts you're going to use? Because that's part of the ongoing work of Searchable in the background is like, well, what are the prompts that you believe your target audience is actually using in these LLMs? Like, how do you come up with that concept? And then I know you can manually add on your own because you know your industry best, but it's so interesting that you come up with some really unique ones that I'm like, oh, wow, people would actually ask that. They're looking for, I don't know, best. I'll have to look it up here in a second, but they asked a question about like, I'm looking for someone to help my site with like CRO, or I'm looking for, and it's so interesting how everybody uses different types of language. And I mean, there's not a finite amount of like queries you can have in there. There certainly is a cutoff of like how many you're actually going to, ping these large language models to find out where you sit. But how do you choose which ones you actually want? Is there a mindset or a process that makes the most sense? I guess I'm asking for myself too, but I think those that are listening would like to figure that out too.
Yeah, of course. I think it's worth noting that we're, for the first time in a long time, probably since social media, realizing that there's no data. So there's no official data. ChatGPT does not tell you this is how much that prompt is searched for. This is how many people are searching for it. So, and I feel like marketers hate flying blind more than anything else. So, when Google says we'll deprecate cookies, everyone loses their minds because they don't want to fly blind.
No.
And so on and so forth. And so that's a challenge. And it's a real challenge. And very openly, nobody has solved it yet. Anybody who says that they have, I would like to have words with them. They shouldn't mislead people.
Yeah, fair enough.
But what we do have is, we can talk to LMs themselves to get ideas for it. So the way that we do it is twofold. So on one hand, we've actually do research and you can load a seed topic. So in this case, CRO optimization websites or CRO optimization consultants. And then we will go to multiple AI platforms and we'll effectively do a bit of a conversation with them of, okay, well, if you're searching for it, what else would you search for? And
Mm,
so because we're already going to query them anyway, we want to get that corpus from them.
right.
So that's one side of this. And yes, it's simulated, but what we find is small variations of the same prompts result in roughly the same answers because
Ah,
when
yes.
because context is not keywords. So keywords, obviously,
Mm,
when you have 3 words and one of them varies, that's 30% difference, roughly speaking. If you
hmm
have a 20-word phrase that has very rich context to it, if I'm looking for high performance headphones, I may say it different times even when I search for it, but the intent and the context is this guy wants to buy some headphones and he wants them to be premium. He wants them to be, top of the line. He's clearly nerding about it, which
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to admit. I love my
Yeah. Yeah.
headphones.
Yeah.
But that way we can effectively simulate all these topics. And then what we do on the other side is we triangulate search data, our internal benchmarks, and third-party data that we can get on effectively what the volume likely will be and how difficult it is. So effectively how many competitors are already in that space. So that way you have ideas, you get like hundreds of ideas through prompt research through the platform, and we'll also give you an idea of, okay, how popular it is so you can make educated decisions. It's not perfect, but informative and giving information to the users, effectively giving you an idea of which, at least be able to have very educated opinion about it and decide for yourself, this is strategic, this is not,
Yeah.
is very important. And that's how we do.
It's interesting. I just, while you were speaking, I just did a query with the agent, and I said, here's my seed keyword for my business. Like, this is the primary keyword, and can you give me some ideas about, like, for prompt creation ideas that I should have stored from within Searchable? And it's nice how they break it down into like feature specific prompts, like very high intent, which is very interesting. The keyword online or website or whatever, or where to, these sort of, but then there's some platform specific, best platform for this, best marketplace for that. And it's so interesting. They gave me a whole bunch of options here, or even niche category prompts like buyer behavior. They're very specific about that, about, for sale or custom or creators. And so interesting how they've done it. And then they go into things like activity and wellness angles, or they go into question, the AI search optimized question-based angle was quite interesting too, where compare like, how much is this, or is it safe, or can I do this, or can I do that? And then it goes into like the last good section I thought was great was the comparison prompts, this versus that. I think that's really interesting. Or the best whatever app, if it's a CRO app, let's say, for example, or, the best place to buy X. It's so interesting where you come up with a lot of these great ideas, and I think you're right. I think instead of like maybe the super long tail prompt, the context is still there. As long as you're breaking it down into these kind of like buyer behaviors and potential angles, at least you're covering all your bases from a starting point from your seed keyword, and then slowly start working your way a little bit wider as you see the kind of results. And I'm guaranteed the tool is going to give you more insights as the week and months go by too, with these prompts in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
my favorite part of it is if you ask the agent to add them, they'll just appear.
See? That's amazing, right?
Yeah. So, and again, it's these efficiency gains. Some of it is very big. Obviously, you can save hours analyzing, but these small things where you don't have to copy paste from somewhere. And we have a lot of brands who are saying, I've replaced my Claude plus SEO tool or, ChatGPT plus something else
Yeah.
tool because we combine them. And when it's natively combined, it's
Mm,
much easier to get those things fixed and get
mm.
get that benefit from the tool when answer comes alongside the question.
I know this is probably like off topic, but is there public knowledge on the LLMs that are in the back office for searchable, or is this kind of again like a custom kind of a hybrid solution, or are we still like an API, enterprise connection to a larger model? And there's that, and then the other part of that question is there a bring your own key option where people buy into a plan, and instead of having to have certain kind of like, I guess, structural limits based on the contract or plan you're on, is there a bring your own key on an enterprise side of the business?
Great question. Fantastic question. So I think on the bring your own key, we don't feel that there is a need because we provide access to the platform. So it's on us to deal with querying Perplexity, querying ChatGPT. And it's worth noting that we don't use API calls for
Oh,
99% of our prompts.
okay.
It's all done from the UI. So you're
Okay.
getting very realistic results. So
Yeah.
if somebody to log in into ChatGPT, ask that prompt, that is the process that ChatGPT will go through. This is the research they would do,
Uh,
and so on and so forth. There is research that shows that difference between API and front end results is
mhm.
maybe 15% overlap. So
Oh,
they're
okay.
very, very different. And we aim to make it as realistic as possible, because once you start querying, we want to make sure that the results that you get are realistic. So that's part of it. In terms of underlying technology, we use pretty much a combination of every LLM and every model that they offer for
Mhm.
different parts of the platform. We
Okay.
optimize it very well. I would say like agent is primarily powered by Anthropic, because the
Mhm.
code writing,
Yeah. Because of Claude Code and that too. Yeah.
yes, but there is an enormous amount of additional layers. So if somebody comes, I've definitely had those questions before. It's like, well, why can't I just use Claude and throw your
Yeah.
agent out? The context matters, the rules
It does.
matter, all of those
Hmm.
things. So we have launched an MCP, and for those unaware,
Oh,
MCP
okay.
is effectively an API for uh, LLMs. So it allows to connect to Claude Code or to Cursor and effectively query our data. And we already have users who are creating some crazy skills with cross-referencing their analytics, their
Yeah,
marketing
yeah.
with Searchable. And yeah, it's a joy to see. It's fantastic.
Oh man, wow! You're such a bleeding edge piece of software, and it's just like, and we're such in the early days too right now, right? So it's just, for me, it's ready for prime time right now. It's definitely, and I'm excited to see, because once again, I'm a new user myself, but it's interesting, maybe the 10 or so articles that I've written that I know for a fact are gaps. I found them in Hrefs also being gaps, and also using SEO testing, finding these decaying pieces of content. But great tool to show me decaying content. But now, the nice thing about Searchable is the fact that I can actually go in and make the edits to an existing piece of content, or it might turn out through the agent may say, well, let's just let that one lie. Maybe add some FAQs, maybe update it to 2026, do the best you can with minor edits. But we highly recommend that you actually write a new article around the same topic, but here's the new angle. That is very interesting to me, and I think I'm really interested to see kind of how that continues to play out. And once again, like, once you get your instance of Searchable running for your business, that's an instant starting point in time as far as the platform is concerned. Where do you fit today? Finding your prompts, finding where you are in AI search, and then from there, every is incrementality, 1% better every single day, every single week. Those are huge gains in the future, right? Just continue doing the work. So I'm really excited for that. So what do you think are kind of the next steps then for those that are listening right now? Let's suppose that there's, like a marketing team or even a founder that's listening right now and saying, yeah, like, I want to make sure that I'm there for my Shopify business. I want to make sure that I'm available in AI search, because the people are concerned right now. They feel like why are only, not always, but only some of the major players coming up in AI search right now, even from this Shopify ChatGPT connection right now? Why do they only come up? And but what are they doing well on an enterprise side? But what do you believe kind of the next steps are for those that are listening today? Like, is this valuable for, and you said everybody, but are all businesses applicable for this? I know you have plans that are very affordable and it can work, but just curious on kind of what you believe some next steps could be.
Yeah, I think this reminds me of a time where Facebook ads were like to $6 CPM, and then if you just
Yeah,
need to advertise, it doesn't matter what you do. You could have
yeah.
had blank screens or just text posts. It doesn't matter, because you could get a lot of traffic very cheap. And we're currently in this, I would say, 6 to 12 month gap where a lot of enterprise are sailing on their good SEO or their existing authority, but a lot of them are not doing the work. And I would say, like, my advice to anybody who starts on Searchable is put in a couple of hours and set up your knowledge base so we know your brand.
Mm,
Set up your audits. So see pretty much everything that you've done. Write some articles,
yeah.
do this. Because if you do that work up front, and if you know where you stand and where your gaps are and start working on them, a couple of hours a day or week, we have users, about 30% of users who use it daily, or at least like 5 times a week. So clearly, like there's a bit of incrementality there. So in a year's time, it will be much more crowded space. All the laggards will catch up or start looking at it. So effectively, now is the time where actually that like top 5 space or just very good visibility for certain prompts for any business is very doable. And we have countless users on the side who are competing with Salesforce in certain niches, or
Oh,
who are
wow.
competing with
Yeah.
very, very large brands, that through the effort of optimizing what they have currently, making sure that evergreen content is truly green and not
Yeah.
wilting,
Yeah.
at closing content gaps that they have. Again, everything identified through the platform. That's people who put in the work in now. You'll start on such a good base going forward. And we haven't touched on it, and we're preparing for it. But when ChatGPT ads are rolling out, there's a lot of uncertainty there for people. But our advice is always good organic presence sets you up for success for anything else that comes afterwards.
Yeah.
So once you have that machine to suddenly like refresh your content every 3 months instead of every 3 years, and
Yeah.
once your team is used to these new tools and new ways of working, catching up to those systems will be much harder once it gets competitive, because currently you can get a lot of benefit from it relatively quickly, up to a week. So SEO takes 3 to 6 months. Certain niches we see results within a week, that they're starting to see uptick, they start to see traffic. So yeah, it's a window that will close eventually, but for now, it's a very interesting playing field, because newcomers can have pretty much the same chance so far, or very similar chances than the big guys.
Yeah, it's amazing. You have a lot of case studies on the website at searchable.com. I'll make sure in the show notes, we have links to all of those. In whatever market you're in, not just in the Shopify e-commerce market, those are covered, but there's lots of others in here. So looking at it right now. And I know we kind of talked offline before recording, so apparently you would like to maybe share an offer for those that are listening today and saying, hey, maybe this is right for them, or they at least want to try the platform out. What do you believe the next steps are for those listening or watching today?
Yeah, of course. So the easiest way is connect with me on LinkedIn. So I'm, I think, the only Slobodin one on LinkedIn, or at least one of the very few.
Yeah.
If you ping me a message saying, I came from Steve's podcast, let me know, and we'll get you additional 50% off the first month. So actually, with the trial, it's like having a full month for free,
Yeah.
because we believe in our product this much. You can have a month because we know that you'll love it.
Yeah, exactly. So 14-day free trials out of the box. I'll make sure I put your link in the show notes to your LinkedIn profile. And then we can kind of, I guess the first 50 people or so that kind of DM you directly, they can get like half. So yeah, you're right. Exactly. They're getting like a month essentially for free to at least 2 weeks to kick the tires and see what's actually going on here with the platform. I'm a fanboy. Like I said, I absolutely love the platform. I think you're building something very impactful. I want to thank you for coming on the show today. And
Thank you for having me.
we're in early days right now, but man, it's so exciting. And I know you're nonstop iterating the platform and giving feedback. I know there's even a public roadmap. There's lots of stuff going on here that really I think is fantastic. And I just want to give you some public kudos. You guys are building a great product, and this is lovely. So thanks so much for recording today.
Thank you very much for having me. Thanks, Steve.
All right. Have a good day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, that's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank you personally for being a loyal listener of E-commerce Fastlane. It's my hope that this podcast is offering you a ton of value through growth strategies, tactics, and exclusive insider tips on the best Shopify apps and marketing platforms, all with my personal goal to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company powered by Shopify. Thanks for investing some time today and listening to the show. I'm so proud and excited that you have a growth mindset and are a constant learner. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey. Enjoy the rest of the week and keep thriving with Shopify.